Hey, what's up? It's Nick Poliokini, and I am in, well, a really cool venue, a rehearsal space for an amazing group that puts on some really impressive performances. So we'll get to that in a bit, but what I want to talk to you today about, or share with you, is a new friend. This is Bren Thor. And Bren, what is your role? What do you do? This is, first of all, we're in the rehearsal space for Musical Theater West here in Long Beach, kind of in the heart of Long Beach, actually. What is your role here with Musical Theater West?
I am the associate producer here at Musical Theater West. I started as an intern like 15 years ago.
Wow.
But then became company manager and now associate producer.
Okay.
So it's anything that needs doing, basically, here at the
I get
theater.
it.
We're a small company and we're all hands on deck. So that's
great. No, and I think that's something that we will talk about a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it's slightly different when you're talking about local and regional performance spaces and theater, as opposed to some of the larger organizations. But I want to talk to you about Bren. And I always try to think of like, what would someone have called you as a child, like Brenny?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what they would have called you as like a cute nickname.
Bren is the nickname.
Which is the nickname.
Actually,
That's what I was saying. Like, so it's just like Nick versus Nicholas.
Yeah.
I don't ever know exactly what to call it, but let's talk about you in your early days, because I will talk about Musical Theater West and the incredible season that's coming up and things that are coming from the organization.
Yeah.
But let's talk about you. What did you do? Where'd you come from? Take me back to your, we don't need to go full tilt childhood, but like, how did you come to this way? So wherever you want to start when you were younger.
Well, honestly, Musical Theater West is part of what gave me my start in the entertainment industry.
Okay.
I started interning here in high school, working in the summer shows. In 2010, I got to sit backstage left and watch Davis Gaines make his debut here in the production of 1776. Right. And so that was part of the inspiration for me going into the entertainment industry. I went to school for performing and had a performance career. We talked about working in parades and at Disney and all of that. And eventually wanted a little bit more of a hand in the process behind the scenes, which is when I started working on writing and directing and eventually producing and being on the back end of things. So that is how I came to be here.
That's amazing, and not being sarcastic, but I'm glad we have your LinkedIn. We have your entire resume, and that's good. No. And I only say that because so many times when I sit down with people, and they don't know where to go, and you've given me a lot, and I think that's great because I want people to understand how multifaceted people in general are. And I know I'm saying people and a lot of things that way. A lot of people we don't realize exactly where those people we cross on the street came from, or people that we go and see on stage, or maybe we don't see on stage. Maybe they're backstage, maybe they're behind the curtain, and they're helping to be the puppet master to a certain extent with the performance, just like you. So let's talk about you, even maybe younger. So when you were, I don't know, grade school, junior high, high school, performing arts at all? Technical, anything?
I was a sports person. And then I broke my leg playing football.
Okay.
And so I had to find another outlet.
Okay.
And found theater, and that became. I found a community that was exciting and accepting, and I loved it and folled that.
Which is great. Now going back to your football and your sports background. No. And I think
which I still follow football.
That's good. I'm Chargers. Like we could go all nine on that. But for me, it's always interesting because you really did find an active outlet.
Yeah.
So it was where you just said it was something that you connected with. It was something that you found value in, and it was a great avenue and expenditure of your energy in a different form, because whether you're doing straight plays, musicals, or anything in between, there's a lot of physicality to it. There's a lot of stamina that's required. There's so much in sports that you do, whether you're playing intramurals or professionally or somewhere in between, that you're like, there's so much time, energy, and effort and dedication to put in. That's the same case when it comes to the performing arts, whether you're in tech, whether you're doing something on stage or, pulling the strings behind. So with that injury that led to you getting into theater, did you start going on stage? Were you doing things in that way? So what was your draw? Did you go straight plays? Did you do musicals?
I was a dancer.
So you did? Okay.
Yeah. You just saw 42nd Street. Those are athletes.
100%.
Yeah. And so that was kind of what I was in the world of. And I think you realize the lifespan of a dancer has a limit to it. And so I have so much respect and so much admiration for the people who are dedicating so much time and energy to that. But you realize that there needs to be something beyond that at a certain point.
And I think that's great for you because you were able to not just say, hey, I'm going to go get an education and get this as my fallback. You were able to take a physical existence that brought you joy and made you happy and then move into a different form with that.
I would say community as well. Because part of what has led me to where I am is just to be a part of this community. I have lots of friends here in Long Beach. We've convinced lots of them to move here. So as a part of the theater community, but also just a community of good people in Long Beach. I love that aspect of
which is great. Now,
life.
Where are you born and raised in the area or no?
I was born in San Francisco area.
Okay, so California, but Northern California. Very different world.
Moved around a little bit, went to high school in Orange County and grew up through there. Yeah.
So back behind the orange curtain.
Yes.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
I too went to Cypress High School, so I know exactly what it is on that side of the world. But you also, as we have spoken off air, you have a background with Disney.
Yes.
So not only did you have that, high school sports or have, sports injury led you to becoming a performer, but you were in entertainment at Disney. So talk to me about that, because when you were in entertainment at Disney, what were some of the shows or parades or any of the things that you were doing then?
I was in the Soundsational parade.
Got it.
So that was really, Disney was a part-time gig at the time for me. I was in the regional theater scene. I was working as a dancer in, titles like Damn Yankees and Seussical, and, I did the Rudolph tour for a while, the Christmas tour that went to the East Coast, and it was the performing life is very exciting and fun and grinding at times.
It really is. I've got a friend, Ray Zaragoza, who originated the role of Tiger Lily in the new traveling Peter Pan, which is coming to Pantages here.
That,
And having watched her and her being a musician, and but also having been in the performing arts, her brother Roman is in Ghosts on CBS, and just seeing all these things and these outlets for it. But just like you said, it was you've got all this different background and knowledge and experience. So then you did that with Disney. Soundsational Parade kind of gives me a little bit of an idea where you were. Well after my time with Disney, and that's fine. But what else in and around your adult life, or in your development, what other things have kind of led you to where you are now? So outside of what we've already discussed, what are some of the things that bring you joy and excitement and you're passionate about? Obviously, a lot of this stuff. But there's got to be more to Bren than just what we're talking about here.
I mean, I am so deeply involved in theater and this company that it is such a part of my identity. If I'm gonna be
and I want you to be completely honest, and it's probably a good opportunity to talk about Musical Theater West. So I know we kind of touched on it, but let's go over it again. How did you come to Musical Theater West specifically?
I started interning here in the summers.
And what did that look like? What is an internship? Were you doing education at the time? No, but you were doing interning as this was moving toward a degree in theater arts, or you were just interning because you liked it?
Yeah, just to have a job, really, just to come in. I would move tables around, and I would crew backstage. And I eventually became part of the education shows, both as a performer and then as stage manager. And a lot of that experience I got here in this rehearsal hall, interestingly enough. So,
which is good though, and it's a good community, it's a good space. Now, having been with large organizations like the Walt Disney Company, and now with a smaller entity, what are some of the things that you've experienced in local or regional theater that obviously weren't happening over, down the way in Anaheim? What are the things here that are different? Because as you said, you wear many different hats. And in this opportunity, and specifically, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but Musical Theater West does their performances at the Carpenter Center, which is attached to Cal State Long Beach, an amazing venue which has some really world-class shows outside of Musical Theater West, just people coming there, the performance space itself. But for something like this, what, why here and how is it different from that experience with, Disney?
I like the homegrown aspect of regional theater. I love the element of putting together a show and hosting auditions and seeing the hundreds of people that walk through these doors, and then cobbling together a show from that, and watching the investment that and it's just 3 weeks. It's a short period of time, and it's fleeting, and it's a communal experience that people can have, and I think the audience shares in that and feels that excitement. When you get something like a tour at the Pantages, which is fantastic. I love going to see shows there. I'm going to go see The Wiz pretty soon. Can't wait. But there is something about that kind of a show that is... A lot of those productions have been on the road for a long time.
Sure.
And so they have been, I saw The Lion King at Segerstrom. Those folks have been touring with that show, some of them for over a decade.
Correct.
It is an amazing experience, and they are able to put so much money behind it, and it's incredible and formative for a lot of people. But it's a whole different experience to grow something from the ground up here locally and be able to share that with people.
With the performance spaces, and I think you've given a great, Lion King is a fantastic example of this specifically, having world-class performers that not only have been on Broadway or have been in some of the larger performance spaces around the country and around the world, but have done the touring and done the smaller areas. For you here with Musical Theater West, is it a lot of local? Is it a lot of people outside the area? Are you finding people that are coming in to cut their teeth who have lots of background and experience, or not so much?
Yeah, most of they are professionals, so they're at different stages in their career. We love being able to be a launching pad for developing professionals. So we have lots of folks who are straight out of school, who are working on the regional scene, working Disney parades, working touring, etc. And they are still honing those skills, and we give them a place to do that. We love catching people on the upswing, which is fantastic, but we also are a place, a local spot for people to come back and play with us as well. We have amazing talent who have come through these doors, and then they come back later on. David Engel, Larry Rabin. There are so many Broadway performers who either got their start here or went on to have a Broadway career. They moved to the West Coast, and they're looking to stay in the theater industry. TV work is fun and engaging.
It is indeed.
But it is a whole different grind, and if you were a theater person, you want to work in theater.
Yeah.
And this is a place that people can work in theater, and I'm grateful to have a place like this to be able to work.
It's such an interesting opportunity. Now, the thing that I don't know, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but does Musical Theater West work within the community? Do you have an educational or any grant-based things? Tell me, because I know Musical Theater West, as many regional theaters that I've talked about on This Weekend with Nick Poliokini, have those opportunities. What does Musical Theater West bring to Long Beach and the local community that's outside of just the incredible performances and professionals that come through and are at the Carpenter Center or anywhere else?
Yeah, Musical Theater West education programs are truly incredible, and they are. They have been around for 20 years around. Our company is 72 years old. We're celebrating our 72nd anniversary this year. But the education programs have been a vital part of that since we moved to Long Beach in the late 90s. And we started doing student matinees. And so those students will bus in students from around the area, and this is our flagship program. Many of them get to have their first theatrical experience here at the Carpenter Center, seeing professionals on that stage and getting to have an interactive experience with the arts for the very first time. We have other programs as well. We send an educational show, a 35-minute trunk tour, basically, through schools. We offer summer youth conservatories, master classes. We have virtual classes, school visits, residencies. But the student matinee program, I think, is the most impactful program. There are so many schools that have cut arts programs. That's
been for a good amount of time.
Yeah, truly.
And for you to have been doing the educational component for at least 20 years and being able to not just, like you said, take the trunk show, take the performances to the schools as well as bringing them here. Because being born and raised in Southern California, being a product of field trips, when there were field trips and there were budgets for it, and living in the Inland Empire specifically when I was a kid growing up, and being bussed into LA, being bussed into Long Beach.
That's amazing.
So, but that was it. The LA Zoo was one of those things, and working with the LA Zoo, again, for This Weekend with Nick Poliokini and with iHeart Radio, make those connections. And I mean, it's one of those components where there are so many times I wanted to do something because of what I saw and experienced.
Yeah.
Because it brings a tangibility to it that we don't even know exists. And I think we've kind of talked about it here. Well, you've definitely done, and now you're doing things behind the scenes, but you did many things that were front and center on stage. There's so much involved with theater above and beyond. And especially in 2024, it's a whole new ball game.
It really is. Post-pandemic.
Right. Post-pandemic is a whole thing. But even with technology where it is now, the availability of, we always love good practical effects, but the things that can be done now within it, where kind of in your experience and knowledge with Musical Theater West, has it been, is, and going to kind of, and I know that's a very
Musical Theater West or the industry as a whole.
I would say for you guys specifically, sure, by all means, comments on the industry as a whole. But I'm more interested here because I can talk to Pantages, I can talk to the larger venues because I know where they're going. I want to know what's going on here because if I'm somebody that's going to Los Alamitos, or maybe I'm going to OSHA, you know, the Performing Arts School in Orange County, and I want to know where to go, and I want to know where to do it. Or maybe, kind of like you, I had an injury and now I don't know what I want to do, but I'm really excited about building, carpentry, architecture, X, Y, and Z. This is one of those opportunities I don't think a lot of people will have on their radar unless they're into the performing arts. So talk to me about kind of your time in the industry, but in observation specifically here to Musical Theater West, of the opportunities that are available that I don't think people maybe think of. Yes, we know that there's always a lead actor and an ensemble. You know that there's either straight play without music or there's a musical with it, dancing, performance, movement, but there's so much more involved.
Well, the entertainment industry is such a great place to have, to bring people together and to you know, it takes so many people and so many individuals to make any given production. And that's the same with film, TV, anything like that. But theater specifically, I think there is so much technology that's getting integrated into it. A lot of what we are trying to focus on is bringing it back to the basics. And we bring in our, you know, there were so many drops in 42nd Street.
Right, exactly.
There are so many people that hung those drops up in the air and they have to operate that.
And really quick, what's a drop for people who aren't aware?
A drop is a piece of scenery. It's basically a flat fabric that is hung from a batten on in the hanging space in a theater.
Right. So I was going to say, because the thing is, you go to a theater. For us, it's the Carpenter Center with Musical Theater West, but you have both above and below. Sometimes you have elevators that are involved with it. People don't realize. I mean, let's go over to Disney, and Hyperion Theater is a perfect example at Disney California Adventure of how many things, how many levels down it goes and how many levels up. So when you're talking about this, you're specifically talking about having a backdrop that is physically able to be dropped in to it in a practical way. That could either just be sheer or could be a piece of material with painting on it or something to that effect, but also some of those have three-dimensional elements that have been built and fabricated out.
Absolutely, yeah. And there are anywhere from 5 to 20 drops in any given production. And some of those in more modern productions can be replaced with projections or LED walls. But 42nd Street, our most recent production, as well as the productions that we have coming up, are practical in that way. And they do utilize drops. And they utilize set pieces that travel in and out. And there are people pushing those set pieces. And there are people painting those set pieces and designing them and building them. There are so many people involved in any given element of a theatrical production.
With that, how long for each of these performances? And when I say that, between contracting the story and being able to get the book and the music and the lyrics, which is the beginning process of any show, getting the licensing and bringing it in. What is the start to finish product look like? In a general sense, timeline-wise, but then also to say, 6 weeks out, we have this entire space is full of carpenters that are working on building those sets. That's when our technical crews come through. We've got rehearsals going on, and then just get to that 3-week run only. And when you say 3-week run, we're not talking 7 days a week. You're talking 3 weekends, right? Give or take. So we're talking
with some in between.
Correct. We're talking in a massive amount of time, energy, and effort, and hugely talented artisans and craftspeople both, of talent with performance, but also behind the scenes that are building it. So what does that kind of look like? We can use 42nd Street or any of these shows that are coming up just to get a general idea of what's involved there.
I would say it's about a 2-year runway for any given production. For example, we're planning our 2025 season right now, and so we're in the middle of finalizing those contracts.
Got it.
Which I can't talk about in this moment.
Of course, no, I understand that.
But about 2 years ago is when we started planning this season, and so we reserve the theater at that time, and then we start going after the titles and trying to line up which productions we're going to do, and then you look where are we going to get the sets from? How do we balance that budget? How much are they going to cost? Where do you get the costumes? Where do you get the wigs? And then you start staffing and putting together the team. And then once you have the team together, you have the director, you have the stage managers, you have the costume designer, the wig designer, the scenic designer, projection designer, if that's involved in a production. And then eventually that comes between 6 months to a year out, and then around the 3-month period is when casting happens. And casting is always an exciting part of the process. Everyone loves the casting process, and we are very lucky that we have amazing talent come through at Musical Theater West. Every time we have hundreds of folks that come through. We're very grateful, and the casting process takes anywhere from a month to a month and a half. And then we start the rehearsal process. 42nd Street, they learned the entire show in 9 days.
And 42nd Street is a show that a lot of people may not be familiar with. It's not Lion King. It's not one of the Disney Renaissance related things that has made its way to Broadway. 42nd Street has so much history involved of a certain time period and a certain era of Americana. But I was told by many people there it's a very dance-heavy production. Yeah. I'm not a dancer. It looked like you were getting ready for an entire football season. The amount of physicality, the athleticism that's there, and it goes back to you saying your sports background and moving into becoming a performer, that venue. But I think that's it, like literally the insane amount of ability of movement and marathon. Like you're talking marathon because
these are athletes. These are
hugely athletes.
Absolutely.
More than you could ever imagine.
Yes.
If you think somebody that is decked out in pads as a football player, these people also have nothing. They're not hiding behind anything. Not that a professional athlete or somebody that's doing sports is, but you can see everything here. Yeah. And just to see that level of, amazing technical prowess, and like you said, 9 days.
Yeah. And that's a testament to both the dancers themselves as well as the folks who are teaching. Cynthia Ferrer was our director for this, and Cheryl Baxter was our choreographer. They both have a long history with 42nd Street, and so know the show intimately well. And we would not have been able to teach the show in 9 days had we had someone come in fresh with a new vision. But they were able to work together with those dancers to build those numbers in such a short period of time. There's probably 15 large-scale dance numbers in this show, which is incredible. It's one of the dance-heaviest shows in the musical theater.
And how many? Because that ensemble is really, really large. How many?
It was a total cast of 27, and we also had six students from OSHA.
Oh,
which we
great!
Were able to have a partnership with a local performing arts high school and bring in
which is
some
amazing.
Students, which is another program that we're hoping to develop down the line. Hopefully, just the start. But we are so we were a total cast of 33 for this one.
That's just, and it's amazing. In the time that you've been here with Musical Theater West, or even in your past, is there anything that stands out? Any fun anecdotal stories? Anything that really we can tell, or I can tell, you're very passionate about this. This is something that you are invested in, and as you said, you eat, sleep, and excuse the term, defecate Musical Theater West and performance, but it's specific to you. So you as Bren, talk to me about something that really stands out to you in your career here being related to the arts. It could be here at Musical Theater West or just in general, but there's got to be something different because you don't just do this to do this.
Right.
There's a different passion component. There's, this is a career path, but as we are well aware, and especially in 2024 and the economy and everything else, sometimes it's not the best paying gig either.
Yeah.
But you stick around and you have a dedication and focus. So talk to me about that. What are some of your driving forces? What are the things that you've learned along the way, even pearls of wisdom or anything that you could impart to someone else, something that you learned and wish you knew before?
I mean, Musical Theater West is a long-standing company. We mentioned 72 years.
72 years is wild.
I love being a part of creating the history that's happening now. I am a history nerd when it comes to musical theater. I loved growing up on the old cast albums and listening to those. I have had the opportunity to work with some incredible, I worked with Carol Channing, for example.
Which is wild. That's amazing.
Rest in peace.
Yes, of
she
course,
was
but yeah.
incredible. There are, I love building on history and getting to see where it's going to go next, but also paying homage to the folks who have come before and paved the way, and allowed us to, not only have the freedoms and have the thoughts that we do now. I think it informs so much of our culture, and especially the era that we kind of specialize in, which is this, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s
Correct.
musicals. We certainly do a lot of newer musicals as well. We're doing Newsies coming up. We're doing $1 Million Quartet, and some even newer titles coming up in 2025. But being able to step into a world of old is such a fun experience for me. I get obsessed with it. I love, reading books about it and getting, being in a different world.
I think that's great. And I think that transporting yourself somewhere else while being aware of where you are is a huge component. It is, as you said, being a kind of a history buff and a nerd, even if it is through the lens of performance, is a huge component because performing arts has been there for centuries, no matter how you slice it. If it goes back to the Forum in Rome, or anything that has comedy and tragedy involved, the performing arts has really been there and been a big part of it. And even to the world of politics. I mean, there's a lot involved with it. And I think with 2024 being another political year, it's one of those opportunities you really can hone your skills being on stage if you are going down a certain path. This isn't just a speech and debate team situation. There's a lot to be learned. With Musical Theater West for the existing season, what do we got? We've got the 3 that are coming up to look forward to. And then what, I know obviously we can't talk about the things for the future season, but what else is there to come? Because I know we've got the holidays on the horizon. You've got to have a couple of things coming up with that. I know you have some longstanding traditions within Musical Theater West of different shows and performances and things specific. So talk to me about that.
So coming up immediately next, we start rehearsals on Monday for $1 Million Quartet, which is about Carl Perkins, Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, and Jerry Lee Lewis. They were all together for one day. You talk about the history of theater, arts, music. This is an interpretation of one day when they were all in the studio together. There's just one photo that exists about this day, and they made a whole musical about it.
Which is wild. And that's the performing arts will do things like that.
Yes, and it is a rock concert of 50s and 60s rock led by these legends, which are so much fun. And we have the actors, they're playing the instruments. They're playing the piano. They're sitting on top of the piano, playing the piano behind their back.
These are incredibly talented people who are genuine triple threats. I think it comes down to that concept of being able to sing and act and perform, be it playing music or whatever the case may be, being instruments or whatever.
They truly, truly are. So we're really looking forward to $1 Million Quartet, and that is coming up in April. And then in July, we launch into Newsies, Disney's Newsies, which is going to be a big-scale production. Probably another cast of between 30 and 40 people. It is about the story of the 1899 strike, the newsboy strike that happened. And so it was a movie in I believe the 90s with Christian Bale.
Christian Bale, so yes, Batman and everyone else you can think of that way.
Yes.
But I was going to say, but no, and then you have Jeremy Jordan, if you want to talk, who has originated the same role as Christian Bale did for the movie. So yeah, I mean, there's that, but
and I would say that the musical elevates the movie to a whole
100%.
different level.
Absolutely.
When you add all of these incredible, athletic, dancing newsboys.
Oh no, it's stage. Gymnastics, and especially a lot of the sets that I've seen for other installations of Newsies.
Yeah.
No, that's not to speak out of turn, but I can't even imagine the insurance policy that has to be carried on that show, specifically because it is so absolutely incredible. Yeah. If there is a show that is like Cirque du Soleil, Newsies would be that, because just the amount of space, area that's covered on a stage for performance, and again, that athleticism is just wild. The gymnastics, and Yeah, I can't even begin with that. So.
And the director of Newsies is the same director who directed Our American in Paris, which was a reconceived production that he used on a turntable. So this is one of the most innovative directors that we work with.
Very
so
cool.
I'm so excited to see what happens with that. And then we close the season with Ain't Misbehavin', which is a jukebox musical with the music of Fats Waller. Ragtime era, the Harlem Renaissance. It's going to be a more intimate show. So we're balancing things back and forth, and that one I'm really looking forward to because it's just a celebration of jazz, which is super fun. We also have our Great American Songbook coming up, which is a dinner sing-along fundraiser event. We are writing the script for it right now, but we get some of our favorite talent that's come through. Our Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz will be there. Our Shay from Evita. Let's see who else. Our Mother Abbess from Sound of Music, and they will lead us all in song. The theme is the 1950s movie musicals, so we love it. And we'll share some fun tidbits about these musicals, about these songs, about the songwriters, and the audience has a chance to sing along with it, which is always a great time. And after that, we'll have our Broadway in the Park fundraiser, which is where we will debut our 2025 season. So that's coming up in August.
That's where that all goes through. So that goes through the summer season.
Yeah.
Talk to me about where people can find out about you and Musical Theater West, not just to come see it, but if they want to be a part of it. So walk me through the whole, give me a full 360 view of Musical Theater West. If you want to come out here and audition, if you want to become a season ticket holder, which is an option, if you're looking to join any of these amazing productions or any of those things that are coming up.
The best place to go is our website, which is musical.org. We were very lucky.
That's wild. When I saw that, I was like, okay, you either figured out who you could coerce to pay top dollar.
That's the benefit of having a long-standing organization.
Right.
We had a board member
years.
who
That's
was
wild.
very insightful, and they reserved the domain for us. And so you can go to musical.org, and that is where you can find information about season tickets. That is where you can find information about auditions. That's where you can find information about our education programs and other ways that we are a part of the community. We cross-promote with other organizations, other local Long Beach arts institutions, and we love being a part of that community. So,
and I think that's great. This has been fantastic. Bren Thor, and I didn't say it at the beginning, but to sit down with a Marvel god, so to speak, adjacent, has been a true pleasure. Thank you so much. You can find out more details about everything that Bren and I talked about at thisweekendwithnick.com. Also, you'll find some BTS behind the scenes content at This Weekend with Nick or Nick Poliokini on Instagram. Also, socials for Musical Theater West.
Yes, at Musical Theater West on all platforms.
And that would be Instagram, TikTok, the whole nine.
Exactly. Yeah. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Perfect.
I think that X.
Oh yes, we do like the former Twitter. That is one of my favorite platforms. So anyway, again, Bren, this has been a true pleasure. Thank you so much.
Great talking with you.
And great talking with you as well. And we look forward to seeing you. Here was a production of Musical Theater West and out and about for this weekend.